Okay, so this is kind of a long video. This is just, it took me a while to do this commission, so I did break it down as much as I could here. But this is a commission that I did at 16 by 20, and it is on Fabriano Artistico 140 pound hot press paper. I will put that in the description below. I'm doing wet on wet here technique, where I wet the paper with water first, and I'm going in with a really light kind of a filler and outline of the drawing that I did. I have a really light drawing down, and I'm filling it in and getting my lines and my guides and basically the colors and the tones of what's going to go where. This was a really fun one because I love blues and using blue hues, and the Tika is her name. This was actually a memoriam commission. So Tika has the most beautiful grayish blue hues. So this was a really fun one to do. Sorry about that in and out of focus there. It seems like my hair was getting in the way. But again, this is just the the first layers. Technically, that's the second layer right there. That is Payne's Gray. I used a lot of Payne's Gray in this because it has that slight little blue or purpley violet undertone there, and it's so easy to tone down. So for an underlayer, it's really nice, and then the white color, the white fur, will show up nicely when I do that with colored pencil towards the end. So it's all about contrast. So I want my darks to be nice and dark, and I want a good base, so when I go in to do the colored pencils, they'll really be nice and bright, and it'll give the texture, the fur effect. The paper is damp now, so I'm not doing like dripping wet. The paper's pretty damp, which is nice because I have a little more control, but I have to really watch the paint on my brush. This paper, this hot press paper, it absorbs quickly, and it does come off if you wipe with a wet, clean brush. You can get the pigment off, but if you wait too long, it will kind of be there. It'll be a little tough. But again, since this is like the underpainting, it's okay. But as I get more detailed, I gotta be a little careful. So now I did that little, I was kind of experimenting there, where you see I did some, a little red, I think that was good crimson color there, where I'm blending the colors on the paper and just wanted to see what would happen. So I let that area dry by the nose there, that little blob, and while I go and do the other eye. So it's really just kind of hopping around the piece. That's why you don't really see me kind of sticking to one area and then moving down a certain way, like maybe say when you do colored pencils or pastels, you usually start in the upper left hand corner because you want to work your way, well, if you're right-handed, upper left hand corner, so your hand doesn't press on, or you don't mess up the work and the right side. I hope I explained that well. Anyway, so here we go. So yeah, you can see that red area that dried. It looks okay. I was trying to get like a purpley shadow there, so we'll see. I think I did a little bit more on the other side. We'll see what happens with that, what I did. I honestly don't remember. This was a few months ago, maybe 3 months ago. So now I'm getting you can see a little red. I'm using the Alizarin Crimson, So that nice little red kind of pinky hue will come through, and it complements the grays and the blues. So when you put the complementary color underneath a warmer color, it warms up the painting. It comes through. Now we're going for the third or fourth layer here around the eyes, getting more details. I'm using a smaller brush. I think it's probably a size 6 round. And now I'm really careful. I want to save the white areas of my paper. So you see that area under the eye, the area to the left of the eye there, well, our right. I'm really conserving the weight of the paper, and I'd rather save the white and then fill it in with colored pencil or watercolor later for details. But I like getting, the eyes done first because I think it really helps. It helps with finding the depth and the dimension for the rest of the painting. There's lots of highlights on the nose here, so that's why I did that really light blue there, and I'm going to save some of that little turquoisey blue and really keep it light. But then I do want some areas to be dark, because when I do go over it with colored pencil for the texture, I want that to stand out, so I need the contrast at the same time. So I'm treading lightly. I'm just doing, one thin layer after another, and I'm just building up my layers. It's really, for me, it's just, it's the best way to go. And you can see I'm trying to getting a little texture there, kind of dotting the brush over that turquoisey color in the nose. And I'm pretty sure that's Payne's Gray. So I'm letting that dry and going down and doing the fun part. His fur. Again, I'm doing that turquoisey color underneath because that's going to be the highlights. And there's the alizarin crimson. I'll put the colors I used too down below. Honestly, I didn't use, that many. Alizarin crimson, Payne's Gray, burnt umber, and that turquoisey color. I don't remember what color that is. And yeah. Keeping my highlights there. Keeping the lights. I'm basically just getting my lines. I'm covering up my, following my sketch. Doing the darker areas where I know for sure it's going to be really dark, getting those filled in. But you can see, I don't know what I'm pointing at there, but I don't know. I have no idea. Or maybe I'm just, I don't know. Anyway, you can see, even though most of these layers are going to get covered up, I'm still doing the fur, the brush stroke, to make it look like fur, like a fluffy fur. You always want to go in the direction of the fur, even if it's your first layer or it's going to dry and you're just doing one color. You still have to paint or draw in the direction of the fur, because it really will make a difference. It will show through in the end. It just, the strokes they come through. So that's a major tip. there. Always go the way the hair would naturally grow. I don't really even like to brush inward, like do a hair stroke in towards the subject, because that's not how the hair grows. The hair grows out, so I always paint out. Paint and draw out. So we're making a little headway here. This is, you know, there's that ugly stage that looks like a 10-year-old drew it. We're a little ahead of that, but not much. I have to say, doing Tika's nose was really fun. It was a great challenge, her muzzle area, because there's so many colors. I mean, look at that. It's the reds. I've got the red, the alizarin crimson in there. Again, the Payne's green, that turquoise color I did underneath. That was the first layer, and you can see how the alizarin crimson is coming through, and it's just a little violet. So the black on her nose isn't going to be a flat black. It's going to have some color to it, which gives it some depth. So now I'm adding the shadows, and Tika actually did have a lot of brown around her nose, and I actually wanted it on the darker side again. So when I did my colored pencils over it, they will show up. The fur will be dramatic, and it'll be more of a texture effect. Gouache. This is it's mixed with water. Gouache, it's like an opaque watercolor, and I'm using white. I just felt like I was getting a little too dark, and I wanted to make sure the texture and the fur comes through, so I decided to use a little gouache just to keep it really light and to do some under layers of the light fur. Darker layers. This is probably, well, up there is probably the third or fourth layer. Around the eyes, it's definitely like the fourth layer, so I gotta tread lightly here, not to oversaturate it, because again, I'm gonna go in with colored pencil, although the only colored pencil I'll do around the eyes, most likely just the highlights. I really want the focus to be on the eyes, but the nose is basically the closest to the viewer, so it should really be in the most in focus. I don't know. Did that make sense? That probably wasn't very good grammar, but it should be the clearest because the viewer is going to see the nose, the teeth, the tongue, you know, but you want the personality to be captured in the eyes. So here we are, the fun part. I'm using Opera Rose and alizarin crimson here with a little gouache to get a really nice light tone of pink. And then that's a little Payne's gray in the back. I didn't really want it to go too black. Sorry about the lighting in this frame. I tried to adjust it and it just really didn't do anything. I have since gotten better lighting for my videos, so as you'll see, I'm fairly new to making videos, and it's all about the lighting, so yeah, I'm working on it. It is a progress, right? Now the fluffy fur around his neck, we don't want that in focus because we want the face. Again, talking about what we want the viewer to focus on is really the nose, the mouth, and the eyes. So everything else can be nice and blurry and fluffy, and because that way it'll get pushed to the back. So you don't want everything in focus. And that also gives it a cool 3D effect. So you can see his nose looks, because I've got more detail on it and I have that really big contrast of the really light highlights on his nose and then the dark inside his nostrils there, that gives it that 3D effect, like it's popping out at you. And also the contrast between the darkness of the nose and then the lightness of his fur right behind the nose. So again, layers, layers, layers. Doing some final layers before I dive in with colored pencil. And yep, sorry again about the lighting. It just didn't really focus in. But I'm really just doing, I'm forming the teeth. I'm basically using the negative space around the teeth to form the teeth. So I'm using the Payne's gray and the alizarin crimson to have a little pink in the gums and the skin around his mouth there. And that's gouache, going over some final gouache to get the light fur. And keeping it blended, keeping it blurry in that area. Final details, final gouache, changing brushes. I think I was playing around with the brush to kind of get some fur effects. Again, this is a big guy. Well, Tika is big too, but it's a 16 by 20, so it's a big canvas. A lot of fur to cover. So here you may ask, I'm going in really dark. That's probably black, Payne's gray with black. I rarely use just black, but I really needed to get, this is pretty much my final layer with watercolor, so I'm going dark, because that's how you work with watercolor. You go light to dark, and then I blend in, I think a little Payne's, nope, that looks like a little burnt sienna or something, with gouache, because again, I don't want it, I want it blurry. I want it, furry and fuzzy and soft looking. So when the black dried, I'm going over it now with those colors, with the gouache and the lighter color. So, and then it looks, that way it pushes the dark fur in the back and the light fur in the front, and the dark will seep through a little bit, and then when I go through it with colored pencil, I just accentuate the dark parts, the shadows, and the light parts, the highlights. And here we are with colored pencil. Again, you can see how the light, the grays go right over the dark. It looks really nice. So I had just enough layers. I kept the paper, the grooves in the paper, enough to where the colored pencil will go on nicely. So I didn't saturate the paper too much. And this is really strong paper, the Fabriano. It's awesome paper for watercolor and colored pencil. It really is. It's one of my favorites. I think I like it better than the Arches. I know, crazy, but I think I do. It's smoother, it's whiter, so you get that big pop. It's nice to have that white background, the stark white, and it really holds a lot of layers. Now I'm getting the detail in the eyes, again, trying to capture the personality. Not really looking to make it look photorealism or anything. I'm just going to capture the personality, like find a certain expression, and I actually, I saw quite a few photos of Tika, and I looked at more than just one, so I could see her at different angles. Okay, so this is a better shot of Tika's nose and mouth, her mouth coming up here. Doing the highlights on her nose. You can see the cool colors I'm using, violet and a really light gray there, light blue, like a periwinkle blue. There's a darker blue. So all these colors are in black, basically. So you really kind of got to use them all when you do black for a realistic effect. So here we go with the tongue. Trying to get the tongue, of course, a realistic effect, maybe even a little moist. That would be kind of cool. Using that periwinkle blue, the darker blue. There I am doing some black. And with the black, you want to make sure your pencil is super sharp. I mean super, super sharp, to get in those fine little lines and those fine little hairs. You're actually not really painting hairs with the black, you're creating shadows. So you're doing the black in the shadows. Here I'm doing the lighter colors on top there to create a few lighter hairs like in clumps there. And there she is, all done. There's Tika. Thanks so much for watching. If you watched this whole way through, I really, really appreciate it. If you'd like more content like this, please let me know in the comments below. It really helps the channel to comment. So please like and comment and subscribe, and I will get a video out to you for sure at least once a week. Thank you.